Isn't this incredible? We came and stopped next to the Tsalala Pride, and a herd of impala just walked past, and this young male started using us as cover. And he is now so close to the vehicle, we literally cannot move. My name is Brent Smith, and welcome to Safari Live. We're sitting next to a pride of lions. I've got Brian Djuma on camera, less than 2 feet from a young male lion, and the rest of the pride lying up a little bit, but they all moved closer to us. As that herd of impala came through, they started stalking. We've got James, Henry, and Andrew Francis on foot today, fortunately quite far from these lions, but isn't this incredible? And they have now moved closer to us. We're now in the position where we can't move. So it looks like we might be in here for the long haul with these lions. There we go, we can hear impala alarming behind me. And hello, little man. No, Brian is not an impala. He's a bit bigger, and you're not allowed to eat him. So we actually got into a position now because of the shade of the vehicle, heat of the day, and they did start stalking those impala. We literally cannot move without disturbing the lions. And what a great Monday at work it's been so far. Oh, yeah, listen to those impala. Lion, lion! Oh, and there's a giraffe. I don't know if you're going to be able to grab it. Is it too far behind us, Brian? Who's also spotted the lions, just to the left of the antenna. No, he's a little giraffe's watching the lion, but he's a bit in a difficult spot for us to get the camera to. He's behind the vehicle. There we go, thank you. Giving us a little bit of space. You can hear those impala very upset. So, this is the Tsalala Pride of Lions, and they have now been spotted by a herd of impala behind us in the quarry thickets that are going lots and lots of alarm calling. What a fantastic way to start the sunset safari. So there's impala behind me over here, and I'm with a pile, literally a pile of lions right next to us here, and the impala getting very, very upset. What a fantastic way to start. Good omens for the rest of the safari, guys. Good omens. Remember, if you want to interact with us, we really do enjoy it, and we would like you to. And also just remember to let us know where you're from in the world. We love to know where everyone's from, so you can do that by sending us an email on questions@wildearth.tv, or if you're more tech savvy, use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So that looks like the young male lion who's got a wound around his tail, and he's busy licking it at the moment. Those flies are probably causing him quite a lot of discomfort, but we did have a good look at the wound earlier on today on the sunrise safari, and it doesn't look to be too bad, and it looks like he is healing quite well. They're still very upset. And here we go, you can just see that wound there. And he's trying to lick, and I'm quite sure from all the flies that have been bothering him through the day. And it is a nice and warm actually bordering on hot day here in the low veld. And the lions have had quite a lot of success hunting buffalo recently, so they're very, very full. So it's about 30 degrees Celsius, 86 Fahrenheit. So, for those of you who are wondering whereabouts we are, we're on a road called Impala Road. Carol Malmar was wondering that. So we are on Impala Road with the Tsalala pride. Impala have moved off but still shouting. All the heavy breathing, digesting all that buffalo meat. They're probably not going to move too much till now. Well, for now they'll probably only move much later this evening, probably towards the end of the sunset safari. So that young male who's got that scar, it's very difficult to say who gave him the beating, and Sean was wondering whether it was the Matimbas. Sean, to be honest, I don't know. Just one of those things. Lions quite often will just arrive with scars. Yeah, there's some brotherly love or cousinly love. It's difficult to say. I haven't seen this pride for a very long time. Last time I spent a lot of time with them was in 2008. Or actually, sorry, beginning of 2008 probably. And there they consisted of one lioness and two females who were her cubs. Traditionally, this pride occurs well to the south of us. Ginny was wondering where they're originally from. Around the Sand River. Their name comes from a place called Tsalala Pan, which is right next to Londolozi Pioneer Camp. Tsalala is a low-felt gardenia, which is a tree, and is a particularly large specimen that grows at that pan, and that was what they are named after. So do we have the beginnings of another Sabi Sands coalition in these three males if they manage to survive another couple of years? And quite often even three males like this will often join up with other nomadic males during their nomadic phase to form a much stronger coalition. Have a look at the light on the tailless female's face there, Brian. Very pretty. And since they moved so close to us, we can get some really nice close-ups on these lions. Except now she's closed those pretty eyes of hers. Tired kitty. We can see that very distinct little white or much paler fur under the eye. that helps with nocturnal vision. It helps reflect and collect ambient light at night. You'll notice animals that are more active during the day, specifically predators, like the cheetah, have black under the eyes to help stop reflection of the light during the day. So also, if we look closely at leopards, they'll also have that pale fur under the eye. So even though their fur looks nice and fluffy, it's actually quite coarse. The belly fur will be softer, but in general the fur is very, very coarse on the lion and smelly. Lions are just generally very smelly creatures. They have no problem eating very rotten meat, and what goes in must come out, and what comes out the other end is positively putrid. And if we look behind the ear, you can see behind her ear there, you can see the little marks from where she's been bitten by ticks, and she's either scratched them or one of the other lions has groomed her that has caused some of those ticks to pop. And for those of you wondering how to spell Tsalala, in particular Donna, it's, as far as my memory serves me correct, it's T-S-A-L-A, Tsalala. No, T-S-L-A-L-A, Tsalala. Impala is still shouting much better. Well, that young boy who's got that wound, and in Durban, wonders whether other lions will help him to heal by licking that wound. They will sometimes, but quite often it does more damage, the licking of the wound, than probably just leaving it be. As I said, probably just trying to get rid of the irritation of the flies. So they seem to have split into girls and boys. The three young boys at the back, and the two adult girls closest to us, and then the young lady to the far right. Now if we look again at the tailless lionesses closest to us at her back leg, and you'll notice even on a lioness that's over 10 years old, you still see those remnant cub spots. So when they're very small, those are much more prominent, and they will be more prominent on the younger lions, although sometimes in older lions they still seem to hang around in quite a lot of prominence for a while. And that is from when they're very young and their mother leaves them hidden in the bush. Those little spots help break out their outline and help camouflage them. So we're discussing lions and territories and home ranges and prides, and Barbara from Potchefstroom is wondering what is the difference between a home range or a territory, and do lions have home ranges or do they have territories? Well, Barbara, it's a little bit of a difficult one. They have both, strangely enough. So basically the territory will probably be the core of the home range. I'd say if we had to define it, lions probably have home ranges rather than territories, and there's quite a lot of overlap on those home ranges. So different prides will utilize different areas, the same areas at different times. An animal that is very territorial, for example, would be hyena. Hyena have a line in the sand and you don't cross it without incurring the wrath of the other hyenas. But so a territory is sort of a very set line in the sand, whereas a home range is slightly more porous, so there is a bit of crossing over from both sides. But it is a fascinating thing, and we always think we know everything. Oh, we got a lion. Oh, he's just turning around. I think sand got hot, or he wants to lick his wound again. So Ian from Gibraltar has noticed that I'm sitting up on the dashboard, and he says when he was in safari in Zambia, he got told not to stand up or sit up. Ian, that is very correct. I'm being very naughty. No, I'm joking, I'm not. In this situation, I'm still on these filming vehicles. We're much lower than you would be on a normal safari vehicle. I'm still not standing up. So the reason you don't stand up on a safari vehicle is there's generally quite bad reasoning given by a lot of guides across Africa. It's so you don't break the outline of the vehicle, which is not entirely true. It is so you don't show the bipedal figure of man. Man has been the dominant diurnal predator on the African savannas in current form for about between 150 and 200,000 years. And obviously our ancestors before that were also predators on the savannah and diurnal predators. So lions will react to the upright figure, so a standing figure of man, not so much to a sitting, and they have an instinctive response, and that's either to become aggressive or to run away. Secondly, we're in a vehicle. A vehicle's only been around for about 100 years. They do not have an instinctive response to the vehicle. So if we drive carefully and considerately, which we do, and so do the lodges in the Sabi Sands, they sort of take the vehicle as sort of part of the scenery, and it doesn't smell like anything you can eat, and for a lion it doesn't smell like anything particularly dangerous. It smells like petrol or diesel and brake fluid and steering fluid, and even human beings don't smell how they should instinctively to a lion. We smell of deodorant and shaving cream and shampoo and perfume and washing powder, so it's very different. So lions are very instinctual animals. So you can, and what has happened in a lot of places where you do go on safari, a lot of these animals have been trained or habituated, not tamed in any way, but habituated to the presence of vehicles. Also, the fact that I'm talking in quite a nice, normal, relaxed voice is a big player. Generally, instinctively, when people come across lions on foot or in a dangerous situation, they would tend to shout and scream and clap and make as much noise as possible. So all these factors play into the reason why we are able to park so close to the animals. And bearing in mind, we didn't park as close as this. They came up to us while they were stalking Impala, and then the Impala spotted them, and they flopped down right next to the vehicle. So in this current situation, I don't feel there is any danger whatsoever. And if we look at these cats, they look about as fierce as a hamster at the moment. Of course, this could change in a couple of seconds if we were to do something stupid. But fortunately, touch wood, we don't do things that are stupid. And all of us have been in the bush a very long time, and we have a lot of experience engaging the reactions of animals. And believe it or not, when I was guiding normal guests professionally, one of the hardest things to control in those situations are not the animals and not reading the animal behavior. It's to deal with people who don't listen. People who would stand up, people who would try go or put their I've even heard of people throwing an empty beer can at lions before in the Kruger Park. So generally, if something goes wrong with animals, 99.9% of the time, it's not the animal's fault. It's a misread by the person, or the person's just a complete idiot. So we can't really see that wound too well now on that young male who's moved off. But Ellen in Arkansas says she thinks it looks like a hole. Could it not possibly be a wound from a buffalo or another animal? Ellen, I don't think so. To me, it looks very much like a cut. And sitting quite closely this morning, I had a good look at it with my binoculars, and it looks more like a slash. I would probably say from a lion claw, and that's not to say it couldn't have been from one of the lions in his own pride while they were feeding. So I don't think it's a hole, but I will definitely double check that and have another good look this evening. And while we sit here and wait for the lions to move off a little bit so we can continue on to see what else we can find, we're going to cross across to James, who's on foot and looking to find the Tsalala Pride's favorite meal.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Bushwalk. My name is James Henry. On camera we have the astonishingly dressed Andrew Francis, 2 buffs, about 3 kilometers of duct tape and various other accoutrements that is allowing him to bring us this Bushwalk live to your TV screens. Hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us a question. Questions at WildEarth.tv if you're on the email. Now, Brent mentioned some buffalo. They were over there. I'm not going to go and look for them in the bush. They were resting in the mud there, but they moved off unfortunately when they saw us. So we're not going to go and harass them. Harassing buffalo would be silly. There are, however, we're at Bushwalk Dam. There are a number of hippo there. Certainly the most hippo that I've seen here before. We're going to walk very slowly towards the water. If they become threatened by us, so if they start to move around, we'll just gently extract out of here. We don't want to cause them any stress. There's not a lot of water around, and we don't want them to feel like this is a place of threat. They want to feel very safe. So there are the hippos. No, sorry, we have seen 2. Bob was the one that we used to see here, and we thought that he had a girlfriend called Daisy at some stage, and so named by 8-year-old Gracie in Ohio. Today we've come across here because there's so much. I don't think you can hear me. Can you hear me now? Because there's so much water stress and heat going on at the moment. There are quite a few hippo here. I will try and sort this out so you don't have to watch this for the rest of the afternoon. Let's move a little bit closer. They seem to be pretty relaxed with us here. And the key thing with hippo, they are supposed to be the most dangerous animal in Africa, next to the mosquito, of course. But that's just because they so desperately have to be in the water. They feel very unsafe if their presence in the water is threatened at all. And you can see that these chaps, they definitely know that we're here. They're definitely watching us. At least 3 of them are watching us. And as long as they feel safe, we are safe too. So the big thing out here when you're on foot is not to threaten an animal. We'll go a little bit closer. There we go. That's a really nice view. Wonderful picture there of the hippo, and they will spend most of the day there. This looks to me like a pod of young bulls. They've probably been tossed out of a larger pod in a larger body of water, I think. There we go, they're starting to move around a bit now. And there you can see the sun reflecting off their backs. How many are there, Andrew? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. although there's a little one there, so maybe it is a small pod that's been evicted from some water. Now remember, the water's getting less and less. We haven't had proper rains yet this year, and so as the water gets less and less, so the hippo will become more and more concentrated and more stressed. And that sound that you can hear, that ding, 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 is a blacksmith lapwing that's calling from the other side of the water there. Right, I think we're going to try and sort out our audio problems before we come back to you. And we'll send you back to Brent and those sleeping lions. Hopefully they use the car to better effect this time to effect a small kill, and we'll see you a little bit later.
As you can see, we're still with the lazy Tsalala lions. And while we're with lions, I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about lion history, and specifically in Europe. So there's quite a lot of evidence of lions in different parts of Europe, and strangely enough, the only place where there's no evidence of lions is in the United Kingdom, where Richard the Lionheart came from, and I think the royal, I'm not 100% sure, but the royal crest contains a lion, and that is one of the only areas in Europe where there has not been lions. But in the Chauvet cave in the south of France, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Chauvet, no, probably not, Chauvet cave in the south of France, there's some incredible cave paintings of lions. There were lions that were probably very closely related to modern day lions that we get here, as well as giant cave lions that went extinct around 300 or around 10,000 years ago. But they existed from about 300,000 years ago to 10,000 years ago. We did have a little chat about male lion coalitions, and Barbara from Potchefstroom in South Africa, who's quite a new viewer, welcome on the safaris, Barbara. I hope you're enjoying them so far. I'm sure we'll look after you, and all the other viewers will help you get into the safari live swing. So if you want to take some screenshots of what we're seeing and pop them on our Facebook page, the WildEarth Facebook page, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. If you want to share the pictures of the screen grabs you take while on safari with us. And what Barbara's asking is that will male lions from different prides form alliances once they leave their natal prides or their home prides? Barbara, most definitely, and you find a lot of male lion coalitions, and this area is particularly famous for incredibly large male lion coalitions. Some of the more famous ones were the Mapocho, that were around when I used to work in the southern Sabi Sands a few years back. And now we have the Birmingham males, the marauders from the north. And there's definitely different ages in the Birminghams. And from what I can understand, they actually come from two different prides in the Timbavati. So what happens is, because there's so much competition amongst the lions in this area, and this central Greater Kruger National Park from here through to Satara has got one of the highest lion densities in Africa. So there's a lot of competition, and that's probably led to this area having a lot more large male lion coalitions than other areas. So you will often find male lions of up to 5 or 6 in a coalition. 3 is common, and there's actually a coalition of male lions coming in from the Timbavati that has been named the Sky Bed Coalition, and there are 9 males in that coalition. So what will happen is these young males will become nomadic, generally around 3 years of age. And from a survival point of view, it makes sense to form an alliance with the other males around, and in doing so, it gives them a greater opportunity to take over a home range from other males, but also it gives them a chance to take over a much larger home range, and also at a younger age. So if there happen to be 2 male lions, they'd probably have to wait till they're 6 or 7 in their prime to challenge another coalition. But at 5, as we can see at the Birminghams, who are just around 5 years old now, the Birmingham males have already ousted the old Matimba males. They have moved down to the south, where they have chased off someone else. And so it's a never-ending process, the shifting lion dynamics. And it is fascinating to be out here almost every single day and try to follow as best we can the shifting lion dynamics of this area of the Sabi Sands. So another young male lion for our regular viewers. I know a lot of you are very fond of him, nicknamed Junior from the Inkahuma Pride. And Mike from sunny Florida is wondering what would happen if these 3 young males happened to come across Junior. Would they chase him away? Would they try and kill him? Well, at the current moment, they would probably, all of them, he's seen something, one behind the worry bush. They would probably try run away. Junior is quite a lot older than them. Junior must be 3.5 now, and so quite a lot physically bigger. These guys are still probably going to be with their mothers for another year or so, if they don't come into contact with an unrelated coalition of males like the Birminghams, who will kill them or try to kill them. But for example, if these guys were a bit older and Junior was wandering alone and happened to come across these 3, he would probably try and make contact. Because remember, lions are social cats. They are the only social cat, truly social cat out there. So it would be very interesting to see. So ideally, even though, let's work it out, how old is Junior now? Junior's nearly 4. These guys probably just over 2. It is possible if they came across Junior in a year or so, and Junior was still rolling solo and hadn't been caught up by some other males. It is possible. I have seen male lion coalitions where there is a bigger gap of 2 years between the oldest and the youngest or the other members of the coalition. But at the moment, I think they'd probably try and move away, and the females might get quite aggressive towards him. And they might gang up as a pride, but if they were old enough to leave the pride, then I think it would be a very different story and be fascinating to actually observe. Just popping my water bottle down, it makes a little bit of a noise. You're going to start getting hot in the sun here, madam. Have to find a bit of a shady spot. Well, guys, I'm going to try to sneak off away from these lions now. I don't think they're going to do too much, but we're definitely going to head back here as it gets cooler, probably in about an hour and a half's time, and hopefully then they'll be on the move, and even better, hopefully they'll be on the hunt. So let's get moving. I heard some elephant screaming just over there, but I'm just going to listen again for a little bit longer before we move on. Before we leave these lions, I've got a few more questions on them. And Laura, who's in Pennsylvania, having a look at this tailless lioness, who's the one lying closest to us at the moment, said she looks more than full. Is she possibly pregnant? I think she's just full, Laura. So quite often with lions and leopards, when they are pregnant, they seem to carry the weight further back, so closer towards the hind legs. So I think she's just got she's pregnant with buffalo meat. So you guys are so amazing. Our viewers watch what's happening with the Sabi Sands and the lion groups and the updates. And so Connie in Oregon and Steve and Khada have sent me a nice update. So apparently this pride did have a clash with the Matimba males on Rondolozi. That's where I used to work many years ago. And the first time we saw them up here in the north was with the wonderful Jamie. And they were very skittish, and there was only one lioness. I think there were a couple of lions missing. I think there were 2 young males and the one sub-adult lioness and the tailless female, and they were very skittish. And obviously, just being chased by male lions, it caused it so. So it is very possible that that young male scar or open wound is from that clash with the Matimba males. And as they say, it's just so nice to see this pride now a little bit more relaxed, full bellies, and not as jumpy. I agree, and it's so great for me to catch up with a pride I used to see many years ago. And this is the second pride I've played catch up with. The first one was the Sticks, which is another pride we used to see further down south in the late 2000s, mid 2000s. Sure, getting old, Brian. So there's a lot of movement in the lion dynamics, as we've been speaking about over the last little while, and Dennis in Massachusetts is a little bit worried. He says, we don't see any cubs with any of these prides, and the last pride that actually had cubs was the Sticks pride. And am I not worried that there's going to be a lion population crash in this area due to the fact that there's no cubs? Dennis, not at all. This is a completely natural thing. When a new males come in, they will kill all the cubs and sub-adults in the area. What this does is it causes the females to come into estrus, or does not a real estrus, but I'll explain that a little bit better now. So basically, once those lions have taken over, and now they have killed the last dominant male's cubs, the females will then start mating with these lions. Quite often, or actually almost in all cases, that first estrus cycle that they come into after the cubs have died and they start mating with new males is a false estrus cycle. And this is a really, really clever little trick of nature that has been inbuilt. I don't think the lions choose to do it. Leopards do it as well. So what they do is they will come into a false estrus and they'll mate with these males. And that will give them another sort of 3 months before they come into estrus again. And what that does is it gives them a chance not to have babies in this 3 months during a new male lion pride takeover, because there's quite a strong possibility that another set of male lions might come in. So they wait that 3 months to sort of make sure that the new males are settled and are not going anywhere before they come into a true estrus cycle. And that's when they will start having cubs. So because of this type of takeover, I think it's probably going to be a little bit longer. So I think I can comfortably say we're probably not going to be seeing any newborn cubs for at least 6 months in this area. But don't worry, by no means is that going to crash the lion population. It is a completely natural thing, and it happens every time new coalitions take over an area. So we're going to go see what else. I heard those elephants. Did you hear that, Brian? It's trumpeting elephants over there. We're going to go see if we can find those elephants, and while we do that, we're going to swing across to Commander Bond, who has got the smallest lion in the Sabi Sands.
Hello everyone, we have found an ant lion, and an ant lion is what we're looking at here, of course. That's that funny little bug, and you won't believe what the adult looks like. The adult is called a lacewing, and looks a little bit like a dragonfly. It looks like an enormous dragonfly with floppy wings. And how this creature becomes a dragonfly-like adult is beyond me and beyond the realm of most people. Now what we're going to do is put him back in his burrow. Before we do that, just have a look at his pincers. Those pincers are used to pinch ants. They grab ants and then suck the innards out of them, and in so doing become much larger. And they basically spend their lives going backwards. Now what we're going to do is put him back into his burrow here, and you'll watch him disappear. Well, there he goes. There he's digging under the ground. See, he'll go in backwards, a little bit like a warthog going into his burrow. There he's hiding himself now in his little burrow. That's really fantastic. It normally doesn't work. When you tell people about what they do, they normally do precisely the opposite. Now what will happen is that an ant will probably come along here, and we actually watched an ant escape, and I thought about sacrificing one for the cause, but then I felt bad about it, so I'm not going to. But I'll show you what happens. An ant comes along, this stick is the ant, wandering along looking for spectacular things to eat. And they fall in here like that, and what they do is they kick sand down into the top like that, and the antlion then kicks sand back up at the ant as it tries to scrabble out the top. This one is not doing that, of course, and what that does is it causes the ants to fall straight in there, and then you saw how that little antlion reversed into its hole. He then grabs it with his little pincers, pulls it down into the dirt, sucks its innards out, and settles down for a rest, and then has another meal. And when they're adults, they're about that big. They're sort of dragonfly-sized with floppy wings. It really is an astonishing thing, and how they go from that larval stage into a dragonfly-sized adult is just quite astonishing. Nature is full of remarkable things. Right, just above us, you hear that bird? There's a bird just above us. There it is. It was a little sunbird. It's flown away. Okay, let's see what else we can find here in the bush. Well, there's actually an ant in there now, but I think the antlion is a little shy. Look at that. Boyd in North Carolina, while we stand up, can you stand up? Are you able to stand up? Andrew, he's carrying this enormous, of course. Boyd, I want to know, I need my binoculars and my stick. You want to know if, A, we get black mambas, and if so, am I afraid of running into one? We do get them. Were I to see one, I would be quite afraid. But you know, they hear us walk. So if we walk with Andrew here, that vibration of us moving on the ground, they feel, and they move away from us. They see us as predators, and one of the first things that people ask whenever they go on a bushwalk is, should we be afraid of snakes? The answer is no. You have more chance of being struck by lightning out here than you do of being bitten by a snake. It's a little bit like our human irrational fear of sharks. More people die falling out of their beds every day. More people are killed by cattle every year than they are killed by sharks. And the same goes for snakes out here. So the black mamba is around. There are probably many of them watching us as we speak, but they will try and avoid us just about at all costs. If you corner a black mamba, then of course, like with most animals here, you'll get into trouble. Dennis in Lakeville and Pretty Nightmare. Dennis used to see the antlions. It's so cool. I really enjoy them very much indeed. And Pretty Nightmare, you say you used to call them doodles. That's interesting. Pretty Nightmare, I'm not sure where in the world you are hailing us from, but it's interesting. Do you get these in the Northern Hemisphere? I don't know whereabouts you're watching. I'd be fascinated to know if you get these same sorts of things in, say, the US. I think it's well possible that you could. I mean, I think they're a very ancient order of insects, and so there's no reason that you shouldn't get them there. What else can we look at here? Well, I think we should look at this. Actually, it's a stone, and just to reconfirm while we're looking at the stone, what I meant by because they're so ancient, of course, remember that the world used to be one landmass at one stage, and so what that meant was the animals that existed during that time, when their continents split apart like that, remnants of each would be spread about the place. And so while more modern animals like some of the bird species, some of the mammals, don't exist and don't have members or family members on different continents, some of the insects absolutely do. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if you had antlions in the New World. And the New World, of course, is the Americas. That's what I'm referring to when I talk about the New World. This is a stone, obviously. Weathered to form the soils that we get here. Very sandy, and you can see lots of quartzite. That's the predominant mineral as far as I know. Geologist, and sorry about the breakup in signal, but this is basically what it is, what the soil derives from, and it's very, very ancient. This particular landmass has not had any volcanic activity for, I think, more than 1 million years. And what that means is that the soil is pretty poor in nutrition. And so the animals that live here and the plants that live here are adapted specifically to growing in pretty poor conditions. Not anything like, say, Southeast Asia, where there's been enormous tectonic and volcanic activity, which has caused soils to be layered in ash that creates very nutritious soils. So much more difficult for plants and animals to thrive out here. Andrew, were you impressed by that piece of athleticism? Thank you very much. Right, the next thing to look at is this astonishing array of dung over here. Now, I'm sure many of you will know what this is from your experiences on WildEarth, or perhaps you've been lucky enough to come and visit us here in Africa. This is where a hippopotamus, like we've just seen, has marked its territory. Now, bush like this, and they sort of settle themselves in, and they push their bottoms into an area like this, and then wag their tails as they're going to the loo. Their tails are like little paddles, and they pull away, and this is how they mark their territory. And you find this kind of marking in the most odd areas. You don't find hippo tracks in this particular. They mark the bushes, and they also mark the ground there. So sorry about our signal issues. We are still learning as far as the bushwalk goes. So some of those hippopotamus that are in Buffelshoek Dam, which is just down there, would have come through here and marked their territory. Right, on we go. I think we should also have a look at this bushel over here. Hello, Judy. You say that this would be a good time for me to sing the Flanders and Swang hippopotamus song. Judy, I don't know the lyrics, otherwise of course I would, loudly into the beauty of the quietness of the African wilderness. Perhaps I should learn it for a fireside chat at some stage. This tree I've spoken about on Drive. Andrew, I'm just going to stick this under your nose, have a whiff. What does it smell like?
Ooh, kind of different.
Yes, it is kind of different. The Afrikaans word for it, of course, is horse's urine. An astonishing name for a tree. Not entirely out of keeping with some of the names of local names around here. And it's actually called a bushman's grape, or Cissus cornifolia. And it grows in these kind of creepers, and where it grows on the ground, it doesn't grow anything like as big as this. Again, so much of the plant height because of the elephants. And you can see elephant attention here. And so it is growing up the side of this marvelous knobthorn tree. It's a huge knobthorn tree. And then last thing on the knobthorn tree, I spoke a little bit today earlier about, oh, look at this, you can actually see the hairs. So trees form very important rubbing posts. So we had some buffalo in the dam earlier, and they were rolling around in the mud, and then they'll come off, the mud will dry, and because it's clay, it will contract and pull the ticks out of the skin, and then they'll come and rub it off on these trees. Now look here, if you look carefully, you can actually see the hairs of a, that's definitely a buffalo, it's black. There we go. On my head anymore, which is very sick. Will come and rub here, and sometimes you can even see a tick or two up in the mud. I can't see one here, but this is a perfect tree for them to be rubbing on. It's very rough, and it'll give them a good scratch when they come past here. It's probably not too old, that. It's certainly dry, but it's not too old. The other thing, of course, that we can't transfer to you via the internet is the amazing feeling of things like this. So to be able to touch, and I know this sounds a bit twee, but to be able to touch the mud that was once on a buffalo, if you think about it, is really quite an amazing thing. That's Andrew's hand there. I don't have two different size hands. And it's just a wonder to be able to feel the textures of the bark, the leaves, and the mud, and feel a piece of hair that was once attached to one of Africa's great creatures, the African buffalo. Is that in focus, Andrew?
Yes.
That's astonishing. Well done. And I know, Rosie, you wanted us to find you the small 5. And Rosie, we found you, as you correctly say, the leopard tortoise yesterday. I think I found one, and Brent found 5 or 6 of them. We've had now the antlion. Pretty sure that we can find buffalo of the day. The rhino beetle is going to be difficult. The elephant shrew, almost impossible, I suspect. And Cameron, you've obviously heard of
but I'm going to check around the Djuma Dam, or hopefully it sounded like they were moving in this general direction. With all that trumpeting, they could have been being harassed by a big Ellie bull, so they could be moving a little bit faster. But what a stunning afternoon it is. Not a cloud in the sky. Bird party in the bushes here. Let's just try ease a little bit forward. Someone's very upset. Where's the gun? You done a disappearing act on us, Brian? Looks like he has. There was a very upset little crombeck. Sounds to be a few more birds down here at the bottom of this drainage line. Let's see if we can spot one of them. That ridiculous noise I'm making is a little bird distress call. Quite often they'll make that for snakes, mongoose and other things. So when they hear it, they sort of pop up, try have a look if there is. Oh, there we go. Brian spotted one. No, it's a giraffe. I thought you were looking at the birds, Brian. We're not looking at mammals now. Come on. looks like that little bird party moved off. But fortunately, there is a large mammal to take its place. Another one of Africa's icons. Giraffe, which is from the Arabic word zarafa, which means the one who walks swiftly. I don't know if you're gonna get it before he goes. Before we get to the he's going. Yeah. They're a very pretty bird, a Maribou sunbird. We made its disappearing act there. But now the giraffe is doing the same. Let's catch up with him. He's a bit easier to find than the little Tweety birds. And we can see it's a male giraffe just from his size and the lack of hair on the horns. Hello, Gerald. Looking a little self-conscious there, Gerald. What happens when you put your tongue in your nostril? Let's move around. He's going to pop out onto the other road. There we go. What a beauty. Nice young male giraffe, probably in his prime. You can see he hasn't got too much of a battle-scarred face at the moment. And here, a very loud little rattling testicular behind. Well, looking straight at Mercy Beth's 5th grade class in Hamburg, New York, who are watching Safari Live for the very first time. Welcome to Mercy Beth and her class. Great to have you guys here. I hope you're enjoying the safari so far, and don't forget to ask me or James any questions, and you can send us an email at questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. What have you seen, Gerald? Well, so, a really fascinating thing about a giraffe and most land mammals is that they and us have the exact same number of vertebrae in their neck, and there are only 7. The only animals that don't have 7 vertebrae in their neck, mammals that is the marine mammals. And they're also the tallest living animal on Earth. There we go, he's found a nice buffalo thorn to feed on. Enjoying those nice fresh leaves. And well done to Pamela who asks, can we hear a dove in the background? You can actually hear a few. There was a Cape turtle dove calling. There he is. One of his calls, his other call, he says Cape Turtle, or for a very cheesy safari joke, in the early morning he says, work harder, work harder. It's been wonderful having so many giraffes on the property today. As today when I moved from our one camp to our other camp, which is not a long distance, and I counted 12 giraffe on the quarantine clearings today. So, as that giraffe disappears into the thickets, we're going to do the same. And as we depart, we're still chatting about giraffes. And you can see why they're called the one who walks swiftly there, as he's made a very swift departure. D. Phillips said a couple of weeks ago we saw a giraffe that was under a year old, really tiny, and wondering if we've seen it again. We have, D, a couple of times, and it was with that group that was on quarantine today. But we will have a quick swing past there, see if we can see it while we're on search for these elephants. So also I know a lot of you are a little bit confused today between the drives between the sunrise and sunset safari. You might have noticed that there was not a highlights reel playing, but rather the Djuma cam was on, and that is just a thing we're going to be trying out for a while, so we can literally say we're live 24 hours a day. Come join us in the African bush. So we'll go straight live from the Djuma cam onto the back of the safari vehicles with either James, myself, Scott or Jamie, and then at the end of the safari we'll go back live to the Djuma camp. Well, we're chatting about what the Cape Turtle Dove says, and Regina said it says something, but Regina, I do know that one as well, but we do have children watching, so I'm not going to promote the use of such things, although that's what it normally says after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Hello, we got some striped donkeys ahead. Oh, and Donna Hodgkin says Cape Turtle Dove can also say, where's father, where's father? Hello, zebras. Just a pair of them, it seems. I'm sure there's a few more spread out through the mixed broadleafed woodland around us. And a lot of people often wonder, I mean, we've domesticated horses and donkeys. Why haven't we domesticated the zebra? Well, quite a few attempts at the domestication of zebra happened, especially in the sort of late 1800s, early 1900s, when the tsetse fly was still rife over vast areas of Africa, and even this area used to be full of tsetse flies. And it turns out that zebra are are not the easiest thing in the world to domesticate, and that's why we stuck to horses and donkeys. They are very, very temperamental and very, very violent quite often. And I know we have seen some of that violent behavior on the live drives from the stallions. They kick, bite, are very, very difficult. They also are not designed to carry loads. So as soon as they were strapped up to a carriage or whatnot, they were not able to pull the load over a long distance. But even more so than that is the fact that they are so temperamental. That quite a lot of them would die in captivity in the first couple of months, actually normally fighting each other in those confined spaces. So a very, very difficult animal to domesticate. So I think far better we leave them out in the bush where they belong. So earlier on this safari we did discuss how habituated the different animals were to the vehicles, and Laura, in very cold Minnesota, from what I understand, is wondering, have we ever been scent marked by an animal since they're so habituated to the vehicles, or the vehicle being scent marked? Not in my time. I have never been scent marked while in a vehicle. I have been sprayed with mud and sand by elephants before, but I never scent marked. And believe it or not, I have been scent marked by a male lion before, but that was not in a vehicle. I was filming with someone a few of you will know. I was on the crew working with Kevin Richardson on a show we did with him, and we were filming from inside the cage, and the male lion literally turned and we had nowhere to go, and we were covered and we were absolutely drenched in lion urine, which I can guarantee you is a very unpleasant, sticky and smelly experience, especially since we put our bodies on the line to protect the camera gear. I'll leave these two zebras and continue in our search for elephants. Wonderful and green, and gives this perception of this really lush African bush at the moment, even though we are in what looks to be the beginnings of quite a serious drought, and that little bit of rain has just transformed the bush. But when we drive past all the water holes, they're bone dry. Catfish, one of the hardiest animals out here, normally are able to move to another water hole or dig into the mud and survive. This year there was not enough space for them in the Djuma Dam, and quite a lot of them, probably 40 or 50, died on the surface. So very interesting how, as wonderfully emerald as it looks, we are probably going into a very dry patch. That is not a bad thing. A lot of people often think it is. It is just a natural cycle. And generally in this part of Africa, you work on about 7 to 8 year cycles, and we've been through a very wet 8-year cycle. So now it's time for a dry cycle. And what this does is it gives different species time to recover, and also creates different systems. So now that it's going to be a very dry area, the elephants will actually open up the bush a lot more. Over the last couple of years, the bush has been becoming very much thicker because there's been so much rain and the elephants have had so much food choice. And when the elephants open up the bush, it's very good for things like impala and zebra and the other grazing animals. So everything is in a fine balance. And that's one of the reasons we don't interfere with a lot of stuff that happens in the bush here. And I know it's very difficult for some to understand that, but this is nature at its most pure and most true. And we must realize that sometimes that might be a little bit difficult for us to watch, but we cannot become emotional and put human emotions into these things, as different as it might be. And our job is to conserve nature in all its facets, even the nasty ones. the subject of domestication of zebras, Laura's also made a comment that wild mustangs apparently used to be like that as well. Laura, if I just got to jog my memory there for a second, but if I remember, wild mustangs from the Americas were actually domesticated horses that were brought in by the Spanish. So they weren't actually wild to the Americas. They came quite late on, and they weren't an indigenous species. So they had some form of domestication, and even if you had to take a domestic horse and let it go wild, it would take some time to calm them down, bring them down like that, but not to the same degree as a zebra. They're not as temperamental and as aggressive. And one of the other major differences why you can probably successfully work with a wild Mustang and eventually get it calm enough to ride and use as a pack animal is because they do have their backs have that capability to carry a load, where a zebra doesn't. Not to say it is impossible at all, but it would take probably a good couple of 100 years of breeding zebras that had strong backs, and that's pretty much how we got horses to where they are at the moment. I got a feeling we're going to find something on this road. This road is called Vulture's Nest. Unfortunately, there no longer is a vulture's nest on it. I think historically there used to be when they first made the road. And it feels like I haven't driven this road in a while, so let's have a look. Like no one's driven this road in a while. It's not since before the rain, so at least 3 or 4 days. While we continue to scour Djuma Private Game Reserve for those elephants, you had to crash away from James because of a gremlin or three. And he was in the process of answering Cameron, who's 5 years old's question about the smaller lions, the ant lions. So we're going to let James finish with that, and hopefully we'll be back with some elephants.
Hello everyone. Before I tell you what I'm doing in this fallen marula tree, just let's get back to poor old Cameron, who didn't get his question answered. Cameron, you are aged 5, which is a good age to be, and you wanted to know about the antlions and whether they look like small ants. Cameron, an antlion is not the ant. The antlion eats the ants, okay? And the antlion doesn't actually look like a lion at all. It looks like a funny little sort of bug with sharp pincers on the front of it. And it's called an antlion because it eats ants, not because it looks like a lion. So I also thought, when I first heard of antlions, I thought exactly what you did, that perhaps they were little ant-like looking, or lion-like looking ants. All right, so we're standing on a marula tree here, and this marula tree, of course, seen its, well, almost demise at the hands of elephants. And elephants are desirous of marulas, mainly because of their fruit, but they also like to eat the leaves. And so they push these trees over, they eat a few pieces off the leaves, and if you look here, if you look at these branches here, you can see that they have been eaten clear of any vegetation, and I'm pretty sure that's elephants. And then of course once the elephant has pushed the tree over, so it will become very useful to other species that might like to eat marula leaves. Now I'm just eating them to check the tannin levels. I've done this with quite a few trees over the last little while. Yeah, not very delicious. They're not browsed extensively. The other thing that or reason that elephants push these trees over is so that they can get at the roots. But this clever marula tree has not actually exposed its roots. But what is really interesting, if you look at the whole of the tree, and rather than just me sitting in it, is that it has changed the direction of its growth. So obviously it used to be about 90 degrees from where it is now, standing perpendicular facing into the sky. And a marula tree needs to be in full sun all the time or it doesn't grow. Now what this thing has done, once it's been pushed over, is it started to grow the other way. This is one of the new branches here. You can see this little branch here, and it's growing towards the light. It would originally have grown probably out at that angle when the tree was up straight, and it's now growing up towards the light. Here's another example at the very top here. All of the leaves that you can see, the new leaves from this new spring season, are growing towards the light. So this marula tree is nowhere near dead. And there are not many trees that haven't evolved, or that have evolved in the absence of elephants, that could be pushed over like this and continue to grow. There's a huge adaptation amongst many trees out here to cope with the depredations, shall we say, of elephants. They come and they push trees over and they eat the branches, they eat the fruit, and the trees somehow magically survive. The other combretums are very good at this. The red bush, very good at coping with elephant damage. Right, we're going to try and walk slowly down the road. I know the signal isn't wonderful at the moment, but let's walk slowly down here and see if we can't find anything else interesting. I'm sure there will be a few things. The first thing we should do is probably try and smell one of the herbs. Joanne in England, I can do get lions in the northern, obviously one in the old world, the new world. Thank you very much for that, Mike and Joanne. Joan, sorry, not Joanne. Right, let's just look here. This is a herb and it smells. I'm going to ask Andrew to describe what it smells like. Andrew?
Tough one.
It's like diesel.
Yeah.
Hey? It's a diesel smelling plant. We've looked at that marula tree. We've looked at its defenses. Its defense is to just have no defense and just survive being attacked. This plant's defense is to produce something foul tasting. And I'm... Yeah. Ooh. That's really bitter. And I'm not sure what it is, this plant. It's called, here it is here again. It's called a forb, and what that means is it's basically an unidentified herbaceous plant. No, that was really very disgusting indeed, and I shan't be eating any more of that. Cheryl? Yes, I do eat quite a lot out here. I think it's important to understand what the animals are going through, and that's certainly not something that I'll be trying again. Then there's a beautiful flower here, a heliotropum, or a string of stars. It is indeed a string of stars. And you can just see it shining in what is now a sun that is going down. Beautiful heliotropum, string of stars. While we continue down this little cut line through the bushes here, looking for interesting things, Brent Smith has come across something almost as tall as he is, not quite of course. We'll head across to him and I'll try and find something else little and magic to show you. See you just now.
Well, we don't seem to be able to catch up with those ellies, but we are certainly finding our fair share of giraffes, and we just decided to have a quick stop with this guy and have a little chat. You can see he's a bit older than that male we saw a bit earlier, and you can see he's a bit more beaten in the face, and from fighting they get a huge amount of scar tissue that builds up on their forehead, and you can see it there, that protrusion coming out from below the horns. And obviously a giraffe doesn't have true horns. So a question to everyone out there: what is the correct term for a giraffe's horns? And you can send your answers through to questions@safarilive.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake there. It was questions@wildearth.tv and use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. You're going to have to forgive me. I apologize. I haven't made that mistake in some months. For those of you who've been watching for a long time, for my first possibly week or two, I could not, for the life of me, get that right, and eventually had to write it on my leg in big black permanent marker. Amazing. You can remember the Latin name of many animals, trees, grasses, flowers, frogs, but I could not for the life of me remember hashtag SafariLive and questions@wildearth.tv. Come a long way since then. Thanks for sticking with me. So there we go, you can see sometimes with male giraffe they do get darker with age, but that is not always the case. So it's still not an old giraffe by any means, but definitely older than the last one we saw, and has the same preference in feeding. He's also eating a buffalo thorn, which is one of our evergreens, so a very important food species both in the wet and dry season to the browsing animals. Just such beautiful light. I hope you guys are getting some good screen grabs. Remember to post them on our Facebook page, WildEarth.tv, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. And share your African safari with everyone you know. Now, elephant, where art thou? Let's head west towards the setting sun. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about those lions. I still think it's a little bit warm for them to start moving, so we're going to keep scouring the bush for whatever else we can find before heading back to those lions. I'd like to get there just before the sun sets. Maybe we can get some nice shots of them with the setting sun behind them. They're on a particularly good spot for sunsets. On the ball this safari, and the first people in were Suzanne, Charlie, and many more people who got that correct. The proper name for a giraffe's horns are ossicone, bone that's covered in skin, not like an impala or a kudu, which is bone covered in keratin. So it's a layer of hair. Although giraffe do have hair on their horns, there is a layer of skin underneath as well. Chatting about those ossicones, or the giraffe horns, Donna from Maine, the home of some very good lobster that I did taste while I was in the United States, is wondering, do they ever lose their horns while they fight? I've never seen a giraffe with a completely missing horn. They can break that bone, and I have seen male giraffe with broken hanging horns, and I imagine it must be incredibly painful, but I've never seen an outright break in a horn that's completely off. Still on the topic of ossicones, Alina in California says, how long do they get? Not very long, Alina. Probably a really long giraffe horn is probably 10 or 15 centimeters, probably closer to the 10 mark. They're not very long. They are quite wide, and they're basically very rounded on the top, and they're used as bludgeons against each other. They swing those necks and whack each other. Brian, do you predict an animal at the treehouse waterhole or treehouse lack of waterhole?
At least a bird.
At least a bird. There we go. Maybe some very unhappy catfish. And a while ago I attempted to cross what looked to be a wonderfully hard, cracked mud surface at the treehouse waterhole, and I nearly became stuck in the mud. It might be worth having a look if I am able to cross that yet. Such magnificent late afternoon light. Oh, Brian, you are on the money. And I think that particular bird is taking advantage of those poor trapped catfish. And it is a Maribou stork. And often called the old man of the bush, or the undertaker of the bush. It does have a very undertaker-like look about him, with his dark, somber jacket. And obviously this is also because quite often in other parts of Africa, and even in the Sabi Sands from occasion, you do find them feeding off carcasses with vultures, and by no means scared of a bit of carrion, a bit of rotting flesh, but I'm sure they're taking advantage of any smallish catfish that are stuck in that mud. And if we have a look at their legs, and there's the mud, and we'll have a quick look at the mud. So we'll have a closer look at the mud just now to see if there are any catfish still visible. But if we have a closer look at their legs, they're very white, which is strange since the Maribou stork's legs are black. So it's actually a cooling mechanism that Maribou storks use, and they actually defecate on their legs. So that is their dung on their legs that is causing it to have that white color, and that's to help cool in the summer heat. Now, let's see if we can idle a bit closer. For any of our viewers who've traveled to other parts of Africa, possibly one of the most spectacular sights in an African city is the thousands of Maribou storks that live in Kampala, the capital of Uganda, feeding off all the rubbish there. Literally, the high-rise buildings are covered in them in the evenings. A really, really incredible sight, how they've adapted to big city living. There he goes. Oh, look how full his gullet is. Nice camera work, Brian. There we go. Like vultures, you see, he's like to land on dead trees with that very wide wingspan. Makes it difficult for them to land in a tree that's got lots of leaves and branches. So, let's not drive off this high wall. Let's go have a closer look down at what he was feeding on. Don't fall off, Brian. Let us see if we can spot any poor catfish. I think I saw one moving there. And that's the tiny patch of mud that's left. Now, let us see if I'm going to sink or it's dried. The surface is dried enough for me to be able to traverse it. I think it's probably a good idea to test first. I think I see a fish there. Ooh, I can smell dead fish though. So like the Djuma Dam, it seems like some of these catfish have not made it. And there's a skeleton over there. Lots of skeletons. Oh no, that's a bad idea. Go a bit further around. See this ending very badly for me somehow. There we go. There's the skull of a catfish. And that has been eaten through. They've got this really incredible hard skull. And there's quite a few carcasses around. But what I really want to try do, which I think is a little bit risky, is try and see if they're... Oh, I know it's going to be very difficult for you guys to see from there. Oh, hot spot. But they're actually maggots swimming in this tiny little puddle. I'm just going to push something in. I don't want to put my stick in there. It's smelly. Let's just throw one of these and see if there are any movement still. No. I think the ones that are going to survive are already encased in a mucus film membrane underneath this mud. So there's probably hundreds of catfish right underneath me now. And the smaller ones, or the ones that weren't in the best condition, that weren't able to compete for those spots under the mud, are the carcasses we see on top now. But before I end up joining those catfish under the mud, because I am sinking, the longer I stand on this, okay, and we can see here, really nice wallow, and judging from the size, I would say the warthogs have had a jolly old time here and over here during the day today, getting encased in that mud, cooling off, as well as trapping all the ticks and other little parasites on their body in that mud, and then heading off, for example, to a nice spot like this. I know James showed you a buffalo one earlier, and this is definitely warthog at this height, and rubbing against here to get rid of all their ticks. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you actually find a tick or a remnant of a tick, a dried out tick, at the base of these trees. Looks like we're out of luck today. Well, let's carry on in search of those elephants. Put my ears back in. And onward. So, Don is worried about my footwear, hoping I'm wearing my old sandals today. But Donna, when it comes to footwear, unfortunately I have yet to find a brand apart from one that I can't kill in under 6 months. So it depends on your definition of old. These ones are about 3 or 3.5 months old, and they're already held together with duct tape and glue. And Jamie, while she is on leave in Johannesburg, shall be acquiring a new pair for me for the summer months. and I'll be sending us off to an incredible local tinker in Hoedspruit, who will basically stitch them together with some really strong wire, and then they'll be as good as new. Well, Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. Cecilia said she's wearing 5-inch heels today. Don't expect her to get off the back of this vehicle to come rescue me out of the mud. Cecilia, I think you and the rest of the team, I know the cameraman wouldn't come to save me either. They would laugh and hit the record button. Yeah, we have to film it. There we go. And every time a presenter makes a fool out of himself, you can't see it, but we see it behind that camera lens. This wide smile starts coming. I think the most evil smiles that exist in cameramen belong to Wiem, aka the Wildebeest, and Andrew Francis. They've definitely got the most evil smiles when we do something very silly. Fortunately, Brian is a kind and loving soul, so he's not as nasty to us poor presenters as the other cameramen. So, from a warthog wallow to a warthog burrow with James.
Hello everyone, sorry about the signal issues we've been having. Nothing we can do. Andrew and I are not clever enough to sort the problem out. We are here on a termite mound. Now you can see that this termite mound is old and it has been absolutely excavated. And we can see what excavated it over here. You come and look here, you can see the marks of claws, possibly from an aardvark. That is what Andrew thinks has made these claw marks. Andrew, is that correct?
Yes.
And I think he's probably right, because only an aardvark or ant bear has got claws that are strong enough to get through this really kind of cement-like soil. And what's interesting to me is that I really don't think that this mound is active, and I don't think it's been active for some time. But what there probably are perhaps little ant nests in here, and aardvark eat a lot of ants as well as termites, so perhaps there are a couple of ant nests that the aardvark are taking advantage of. Otherwise, porcupines may be digging here for roots of trees like this thing here. Look at the little orange flowers that we have here. Not flowers, fruits. Flowers are the things with petals as far as I remember. Interesting little tree. Just going to smell it. I'm not sure what it is actually. Oh, I do know what this is. I think this is a potato bush, you know. I think this is a potato bush, Phyllanthus reticulatus perhaps. Although these fruits don't look particularly Phyllanthus-like. Anyway, there will be lots of nutritious roots here, and if we look down here, that looks to me like it was attacked by a porcupine. You see that, Andrew?
Yes.
So probably a lot of excavation by porcupines here, eating various tree roots and that sort of thing. Lots of interesting things going on here. Then, if we go around to the other side of this mound, come Andrew, let's not dally. Andrew, of course, may fall off this because he is encumbered by about 25 kilograms of equipment on his back, including an aerial that doesn't allow him to duck under any of the trees. Firstly, the first thing you should look at, of course, is the setting sun, which is now turning a lovely honeyed gold and will shortly turn to molten gold. Beautiful. I'm looking forward to that. And here, on this side of the termite mound, is a huge warthog burrow. And it was definitely opened up originally by an aardvark, and now, or certainly it used to be a warthog burrow. Now, we have tossed a few things in there already just to make sure that nothing explodes out of it. But to put your head in the way of a burrow like this, knowing the speed at which a warthog can move, still terrifying. Andrew, if I yelp like a girl, please throw the camera away so that no one sees. Of course, the other things that can live in these burrows are snakes. There are no snakes in there. You will see a piece of elephant dung. That's not because an elephant has taken residence in there. That is because that's what we threw in there to make sure that nothing came rushing out at us. So, nothing resident in that particular burrow. I am fascinated though by how, really, and slightly confused by how much of the other side of this termite mound has been murdered by aardvark and various things. Now, I consider myself a relatively decent identifier of trees in this area, but on this particular walk I found at least 3 or 4 species that I don't know. This is one of them here, and often you'll find species you don't know on termite mounds. And I wonder if this perhaps isn't a sour plum of some sort. A sour plum makes very nice fruits. The leaves do look like sour plums. Yeah, perhaps a sour plum. And then let's just pop up here quickly. Well, we don't have to be quick about it at all, really. We can just gently walk up. And we're often asked, when we look at trees standing on termite mounds, what came first, the termite mound or the tree? Andrew, what do you think the answer is?
Termite mound.
Yes, I would agree with Andrew. What happens is, this is a knobthorn tree, and any tree worth its salt, you can get the moon there. Beautiful. Any tree worth its salt will really enjoy growing on a termite mound because of the nutritious nature of the soil. I'm not sure if you got the moon or not. And what happens is the termites will probably either when a bird is sitting here having eaten a seed or something, it'll pass out of its cloaca, that's bottom in normal parlance, into the termite mound, where because of the nutritious status of the soil and the moisture, of course, it will germinate and grow. Otherwise the termites might actually drag the seed down into the nest themselves, where again the moisture and the nutrition will allow the seed to grow into a magnificent old tree like this knobthorn once was. And the big advantage to this knobthorn, of course, is that it has probably escaped the attentions of elephants for many years because of its position here. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you before we go back across to Brent is I'm going to hit on this with my stick. What does that sound like? Andrew?
One more time. Someone's knocking on the door.
Yes, or a, think more locally.
A woodpecker.
There we go. So in the mornings, a bearded woodpecker will come to a tree exactly like this. And you can, if you look carefully here, see places where woodpeckers, I think, have been knocking. You can see the holes here. And I would say some of those are definitely made by woodpeckers. And the bearded woodpecker, oh sorry about that, does a bearded woodpecker makes a territorial tap in the morning, and it sounds like this. And it travels for miles around, and they're the only woodpecker species that does that. And I think this is a very good drum for a woodpecker to peck upon. Right, I think we'll head across to Brent. We're going to move off this termite mound. We've pretty much milked it for everything we can at the moment. We'll try and find some more signal and something else interesting to show you. Back to Brent. See you just now.
So the light is getting perfect. It's sort of getting to that magic hour of the day, as my dad calls it. And just in case those lions decide to start moving, we're heading back towards them. The elephants have evaded us. They were somewhere in here. Maybe they stayed in the block and didn't come out. And this is quite a big block. Oh, what a nice little herd of impala. We're gonna just scoot past them on our way to those lions. Oh, there we go, elephant! Ha ha! Success! We'll have a quick look at the eddies. Looks like they are moving into the bush. And then definitely want to be with the lions at this golden hour. are the only stations with Tsalala and Gala. Hey guys, just getting an update. It's like a young elephant bull. Copy, thanks very much. I'm going to be making my way back there. So, quite often you find these young elephant bulls right on the peripheries of the bigger breeding herds. They cause a bit of trouble. And you can see there's a smaller one there, and there's some buffalo behind as well, some old buffalo bulls. Gotta watch out, buffalo. Tsalalas are in the hood, and we all know how much they love a buffalo. But just a quick look at this one in the nice light. It's going to, how's that one? Yeah, I think unfortunately that's the best we're going to get from here. There we go. I can hear quite a lot more in the bush. And I'm just going to squeeze forward a little bit, show you guys those buffalo before we maneuver back to the lions before we lose this golden light. There's a group of buffalo bulls. Retired gentlemen that have left the hustle and the bustle of a breeding herd to form little bachelor groups of peace and quiet. So they're beyond their prime, so they're able to compete for mating rights in the big breeding herds. So still safety in numbers, so they form these little bachelor groups in areas with good water and good food, and they don't move around too much. But we have a plan, and we're going to stick to it. We want lions in golden light and lions in the sunset. As we leave those elephants, Pamela's wondering, what would I do if an elephant suddenly came out of the bush on a walking safari? Well, Pamela, I'd probably stop and have a good look at it. It all depends on the situation, the wind, breeding herd, elephant bull. Generally, I would probably just stay and watch it. If it was a bit close, I'd move a bit further back away and then watch it. And I've done a lot of walking safaris in my years in the bush, and one of my favorite animals to walk is elephants. And you can get in some incredible positions if the wind's right, and that you can get on these drainage lines or high banks above them. And it's a really special experience being with an animal that big and massive on foot. And they don't really want to hurt you, and only if you make a mistake and put yourself in a bad position, that's when things get bad. Unfortunately, with lots of experience, you're able to read the signs and try rather avoid that situation ever happening. Prevention is a far better than cure. Just make sure I'm checking the road, make sure the lions haven't started moving down the road. I think I see a lion standing up. Perfect timing. One there, but the others have flopped down again. But nonetheless, I promised you lions in golden light, and we have lions in golden lights. Oh, I think I'm definitely going to have to snap a few shots before the sun disappears. Really recommend you guys do the same. Hello, kitties. Oh, look at the light on your eyes there. Absolutely beautiful. as we sit here with the Tsalala Pride, Sue in Canada is wondering, is this the Tsalala Pride or is this the Tsalala Breakaway Pride? Have they come back together since they've split? So this is the original Tsalala Pride, it's not the Breakaway. The Breakaway Pride was seen this morning to the west of us, and they have not come back together. This is the original Tsalala Pride. Now I'm just going to reposition a little bit so we can try get some sunset behind the lines. So when Brian, is that the spot? There we go, a lion sunset. Beautiful. So we're here at the right time of the day. They should hopefully maybe get mobile, probably not right now, but in the next half an hour. Looks like they might have spotted something behind us. Swing around. Or maybe even heard something. Those buffalo were not that far from here. And there's the old lady of the pride having a stretch with her stumpy tail. So you'll often find lions before they start moving, they'll stretch, defecate, and then this is the most important thing, this greeting and grooming. And we might have missed a little bit of it because she looks like she's, there we go, on cue, evening ablutions. Yes, she's heard the buffalo. I just heard the buffalo. And that's where she was looking. She definitely heard those buffalo. So when lions get up, it can be quite a gradual process. Sometimes takes 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, unless something happens to stumble right into them. But definitely you can see there's a lot more intent in them now. The heads are up. They're not completely flat cats. There you go. Sun disappearing behind the Drakensberg Mountains. Well, from one sunset to another, and from the apex predator of the mammalian kingdom to one of the apex predators of the insects.
Hello everyone, isn't that the most magical sight in the world? We'll just wait for it to go down. The green pigeons calling behind us, oh that's just so special. So that's the Drakensberg Mountains behind which the beautiful African sun has just sunk. Feel quite inspired. Now Brent said that I was going to show you an apex predator of sorts. We are going to do that. It's a little bit the way down the road. So come with me and we'll walk down here. It's a praying mantis that we're going to show you. It's called an uthika. And basically what that is the equivalent of a chrysalis or cocoon. I don't think they have, no, mantis doesn't have a larval stage. It's got, as far as I understand it, And that means that the youngsters this is right, so a praying mantis has something called an instar. There's a youngster that looks pretty much like the adult, not exactly the same, and then eventually they form these oothekas, and they as far talking absolute nonsense. And here's where the eggs sit. Sorry, that was very remiss of me to forget. The ootheka is where the praying mantis's eggs sit. So they lay them in these protective little nests, and they come out of that. It's very difficult with the insects. So some of them produce, well, they all lay eggs. Then some will produce a larva, like a fly, which will produce a maggot, disgusting little thing, or a caterpillar. The butterflies will produce caterpillars, and those are all referred to as larvae. Then some, like grasshoppers or praying mantises, will produce what we call instars. And the instars are sort of miniature versions of the adults. They shed their exoskeletons, and they get slightly bigger and bigger each time. Andrew, where is this thing? I'm sure it's very close by here. And that's basically how it works with the different kinds of insects. And that's because, of course, they can't grow internally. And what I mean by that is they don't have a skeleton inside the body that can grow. So in order to get bigger, they must shed that very hard exoskeleton in order to get larger. I'm starting to feel like we may have walked past it, but I don't think we have. I think it's just down here. Anyway, a beautiful, beautiful evening, and we just got so taken up by that gorgeous sunset that we decided we had to walk back up the road just to have a look at it as it sank below the Drakensberg Mountains, which, as you know, we will find it, don't worry, fear not. I think it was in this bush around here. Somewhere, yeah? Was it? Andrew? Andrew, here's the ootheka. Ah, here it is. What a steaming relief that is. There we go. Here is the ootheka. Now, for those of you who don't know what a praying mantis is, it's an insect with a very triangular head, and I think many of the kind of alien movies that have been made over the years have kind of modeled themselves on a praying mantis's mandibles, chewing mouth parts. And I think this one is old. It's been evacuated. I think these are probably some of the eggs there on the side. And as you can see, it's a very protective sort of silky sheath that will hold the eggs safe until they hatch. And this one is especially safe because it's in a knobthorn tree, and the knobthorn tree is full of the most vicious thorns you can imagine. In fact, let's just have a look at them. This is important because I talk quite a lot about the fact that giraffe, for example, are able to put their tongues over a branch like this and just pull along like that. Now, I'm not going to do it with my hand, but just watch this thorn here. As I push my hand over the top of it, watch how it will stick into my skin. Now imagine doing that. Imagine doing that with your tongue. It's absolutely astonishing how the animals are able to do that. And I don't understand. I don't think anyone truly understands how on earth that's possible. And if you eat one of these knobthorn leaves, they're quite tannin rich, they're quite bitter. Do you want one, Andrew?
No, thanks.
No, you're all right. Are you okay? They're quite bitter, and they... Right. Oh, and very important, I'm being reminded here, this is extremely important thing that I do need to remind all of our young viewers, and possibly some of our older ones, that when you go out into the wild, unless you absolutely know what it is, you must not put things in your mouth. Okay, so don't go out into the wilderness and start eating everything like I am, because unless you know what trees they are, you can get yourself into a bit of trouble. Out here, there's very little that's actually truly poisonous. These leaves have got bits of tannin in them, which are not very poisonous at all. But wherever you are in the world, there could be poisonous plants. But please, if you are a youngster, don't go wandering around eating everything that you find in the bush. Right, I think we'll carry on walking into what is now the growing dusk. It is just so pleasant out here. We can hear the robins calling. You can hear the doves. You can hear the francolins in the distance. You can hear a red-chested cuckoo. Pit my through, pit my through. An emerald-spotted wood dove going. And a lovely wind, little breeze coming out of the drainage line. And that's katabatic flow. As the air cools with the sun having just gone down, so the air will come sliding up the slope and feels like just the most glorious scented breeze you could possibly imagine. As we walk along, after our last segment on the termite mound, Andrew went, and I said, Andrew, what's wrong? Are you all right? And he said, no, that was just a sigh of contentment. And that is what the atmosphere out here certainly fills one with, a sense of deep contentment that, well, despite the troubles of this world, which are manifold and many, being in the wilderness here, especially this close to it, on foot, touching, feeling, smelling, listening, there's something tremendously balancing about it, tremendously healing. And it's been really lovely having two walks this morning and this afternoon, rather than the normal drives, which are great fun, of course, but this is a very different experience. See what else we can find you, other than the Mahindra. Just perhaps a last little segment here. Here are some roots that have been pushed over. This tree was pushed over by elephants, and as we showed you with the marula tree, this is a red bush willow tree, and you can see that it is now growing, well, not the roots there, but these branches here are growing up towards the light. So the tree was pushed over, the branches have just turned 90 degrees and they're growing up towards the light, and this branch, or these roots, have rotted away, and there'll be lots of different things eating them. Possibly termites. Yes, look at that. You see that? There's some termites there. There'll definitely be a few spiders that have probably laid their eggs there. I'll put this back where it was from. But definitely there have been some termites building in there. And those are different. They're called dry wood termites. They're not the same ones that make the mounds. It is amazing, the tiny little things that you find. Right. It's now starting to get dark, and of course when it starts to get dark, so the lions, the apex predator that we have out here, starts to move. So let's head across to Brent. I think he's back with them, and he will follow them into the darkness, and we will see you probably tomorrow. Bye bye, and thank you very much.
All the heads are up. That group of buffalo bulls is making their way here. We can see a couple of them just briefly through the bush. Let's try see. You can see that dark patch there. You can see the horns of the buffalo, completely unaware. And this looks like a breeding herd might have actually moved in here, from what I can hear. And it looked like it's sub-adult horns. But if we go across to the right again, Brian, in between that little arc in there. Oh. Unbeknownst to these buffalo, the Tsalala pride lie in wait. There's one lioness. At the moment they're not looking that interested, but they could be waiting for darkness to take advantage. Oh, and this seems to like the car, this guy. So close to the front of our bonnet, all we can see is his ears. this could get very, very exciting, folks. We're on a live African safari with a pride of lions no more than 50 meters from the closest buffalo at the moment. They are very full. They have eaten 4 in 4 days, but predators are opportunists, and if the opportunity arises, they will definitely try to take advantage of the fact that these buffalo are unaware that they are here. The young males are still dozing, but all the girls' heads are up, and only one of the young males' head is down. I'm now getting glimpses of buffalo all around. I can hear them. I can actually even smell them. There we go, Brian, right in front of this young male. A little bit further, coming out into the open. There. You can see an ear flicking, or is it a tail? And this definitely doesn't look like a group of old boys at the moment. I can't really see clearly, but I'm just looking at those horns, and those horns aren't the big developed boss of an old boy. Those are a cow. So, and they're actually coming even closer to the lions now, still unaware that the lions are here. That lioness off to the right is melting into the grass. This is definitely a herd. Oh, look here, Brian. Getting down into the low ground. Watch the head position. He's changed his body position. Come to join. Now, these two to the left that are in frame now, these are the big adult females. These are the ones that are going to lead the charge if they do decide to make a charge. Excuse me. I mean, the buffalo are now everywhere in front of the lions. There's one, oh, and there's some sub-adults coming closest to this lioness that's hiding in the grass. I don't think they realize the lions are here yet. I think the elephant's actually giving them a bit of grief for young. Sounds like an elephant bull's chasing them from the back. Oh, there's a cow. They might have got a whiff of the lions, and I don't think so. The wind is coming from the buffalo towards us and the lions. Very interesting. Look at that elephant. There's an elephant chasing the buffalo. That's why they're not paying attention. There's a young elephant bull at the back there who's just chasing buffalo for fun, and he could cause the buffalo some serious problems if he accidentally chases them onto these lions. But then again, he might see the lions and decide it's much more fun to chase lions. You can hear him trumpeting as he's chasing them. I wonder if the temptation is going to be too great for these lions with buffalo so close. And if they don't go now, they will almost certainly try after dark. Especially with their record with buffalo. They might be waiting for a youngish one to wander towards the periphery. There's still a lot more buffalo coming through. It seems to be quite a big herd. One reason the lions might not move now on this open area is they might feel they're a little bit exposed to try go at these buffalo just yet. But these buffalo are oblivious to their presence. Oh, we hear that Ellie chasing buffalo again. Little bull causing havoc. He seems like he's having a jolly old time. It could be the fact that the elephants are there that are causing these lions not to go straight at the buffalo. Who knows what's going through these animals' minds at the moment? We can only surmise. So from this point, the two closest water holes for the buffalo is Djuma or Sydney's. And they might be making their way towards one of those at the moment. Hello, little man. Yeah, the buffalo moving through the bush. Oh, hyena joining the chorus in the distance. Ooh. Another incredibly tough day in my office. Don't know how I do Mondays, Brian. Still some buffalo moving through behind, and she's watching them intently. That young lioness who's out on the periphery, making her way back now. So we heard that young Ellie trumpeting away. Khada says it sounds like having a lot of fun there in the background, and I agree. I don't think the buffalo would agree with you, Khada, but I'm pretty sure that elephant was having a whale of a time. So really exciting times ahead. I think they might wait a little bit until darkness sets in before trying to follow those buffalo. Oh, Ninjan. And here is somebody past right here. Those are large herd. So it's going to be really, really interesting now. I really hope these lions, as it gets darker, head off after those buffalo, and we'll be right behind them. Watching lions hunt buffalo is possibly one of the most exciting things in the African bush. Just listening carefully to where those buffalo moved off to. So while we're waiting here to see what happens, whether these lions are going to head off after the buffalo, we've got a question from country girl Ash about lion teeth, and she would like to know how many teeth does a lion have. Well, Ash, if we have a look carefully here, it has a really nice scientific diagram of a lion's skull. And if we take the incisors there are 8 on each side on the top, so 3 incisors each, 1 canine, 1 subcanine, so it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the premolar, the main molar, and then a little remnant molar at the back. That's 8 on the top, and sorry, on the bottom, I'm getting confused here. Let me just remember the dentition. Yes, it's equal on both. In total, they have 30 teeth in their mouth, and they have 3 incisors on each side, top and bottom. They have 2 canines, so 4 canines in total, top and bottom. They have 3 premolars on the top, only 2 premolars on the bottom, then 1 major molar, and then that little remnant tooth at the back. So if we have the dental formula for any of those who are dentists, if we have a look here, and there's a nice, it's the wonderful thing about this book, other side, sorry, Brian. And there we go, there's the dental formula for a lion, and it comes to 30 in total. So incisor, canine, premolar, molar. So there's quite a lot of jokes going around that Djuma is a veritable grocery store for lions. Larry and Charlie are saying, well, they're just looking at all those buffalo going past and sizing up which cut of beef they would like. And to a degree, that's very, very true. They will be perusing the herd, looking for, this pride in particular seems to be expert at subadult buffalo. And also they'll be looking for any sign of weakness, if there's an injury, if an animal's not in particularly good condition. And so, unlike us who go for the finest cuts, they prefer a cut that's got a little bit of damage to it, make it a little bit easier to catch. Fortunately, we don't have to run around with a spear trying to get our sides of beef. And the lions have to use all their armory, to teeth and claws, to grab those buffalo. So if there is a little bit of weakness that they spot as that herd moves past, definitely help them focus in on that particular animal. one of the reasons I also think, apart from the elephant that was chasing the buffalo towards them, that they might not have gone after that. There are only 2 adult lionesses at the moment, so taking on a big adult buffalo bull or cow might be a bit of an ask. So they have been killing a lot of sub-adults, and I didn't see any sub-adults on the peripheries of that herd, so they're probably going to wait for it to be a bit darker. And those who've been watching for a while will see when we had 3 lionesses hunting buffalo actually in this very area from the Nkuma Pride, how they'll charge in and constantly for maybe sometimes an hour, sometimes for 6 hours with rests in between. They'll pressure a herd of buffalo, wait for those juveniles to get tired, their lungs full of dust, and then take that opportunity to grab them off the edges away from the dominant bulls that'll often come back and try rescue them from the lions. So obviously this pride, judging them from how many buffalo they've caught since they've moved up into this area, have got that sort of tactic down to a T. Add a little bit of illumination to the scenario. Still listening carefully. It sounds like some of the older buffalo bulls that are trailing the herd might still be coming past, and you can see there's a bit of focus on that area now. Hang on, I'm just going to move this other light. Thanks very much, Gilly. Gilly from Wisconsin's just saying she likes all the added sound I add to the different sightings and the different ways of how I remember what the noises different animals make, and she particularly likes what the male lion says, and that particular call was taught to me by my grandfather and my father many years ago, and she said it must have been a fantastic childhood for little Brent growing up in the African bush, and Gilly it was. Thankfully, I didn't live in a city till I was an adult, and I only managed a year in Johannesburg before I ran away back to the bush. So those buffalo, the whole herd's moved past. There's a couple of older bulls that I think I can hear behind there. And Grace from the Lone Star State, Texas, and in Dallas, is saying surely the buffalo must know the lions are there by now. Grace, I don't think so. They're past. The wind was coming from the buffalo towards us. The lions kept their heads quite low when the buffalo did pass. So I don't think the buffalo are aware that the lions were here. And I just think the lions will probably know that their chances on hunting a herd are better at night. And we must remember they ate 4 buffalo in 4 days, so they're still quite full. Oh, there's something coming. Let's pick their interest. I'm just going to keep quiet for a few seconds and see if we can hear. Okay, I can hear it there. I was using the trick cupping my ears around my hands around my ears to extend my hearing, and what they're listening to is that buffalo herd moving through the bush still. So possibly quite a big herd that they're still moving through. So everyone's wondering and saying, doesn't us following the lines on the hunt impede it a little bit and make it less likely for success? Aeroline, not particularly with buffalo and not with a pride like this. It's very different, say, from a leopard term in terms of hunting, specifically with lions hunting buffalo, especially a pride like this that is dominated by sub-adults with only 2 adults. As what will happen is they will stalk to get as close as the buffalo. When they are doing that, we switch off the lights and we keep quiet and we listen. But once they've made that initial charge at the buffalo, which is their tactic normally now, is to try pick up a piece of weakness or try get a sub-adult or a youngster on the edge, they will often then openly run up to the buffalo, and you get the seesaw of lions chasing buffalo, buffalo chasing lions, and we are by no means in the way. We're just observing. Obviously, if you get your vehicle in the wrong position or something, you can do that, but fortunately we have lots of experience and have been on many lion and buffalo hunts, so we will try always be as sensitive as possible and still bring the African bush to you wherever you might be in the world. And the chances of them making a successful stealthy stalk on buffalo with 3 young males in the group is even it makes it a much higher chance that they will use this sort of stampeding tactics. One must remember there's also a possibility that these lions are so full that they might not hunt till after 12, 1 o'clock or early in the morning. They know the buffalo around and they might get on the tracks of those buffalo much later tonight and head on there. And for those of you who might have signed in a little bit late and missed the first half of the sunset safari, we are in the same place we had the lions on the sunrise safari. They've literally moved possibly about 20 meters the whole day, and it is on Impala Road, and those buffalo are actually moving now sort of north, and it's going to be interesting to see which waterhole they choose to go to. The one in front of Vuyatela Camp and the other at Sydney's Dam. So those are the 2 possible waterholes that these buffalo might head towards, and that will make quite a big difference on where we're going to follow up on these lions in the morning if they stay here. Aha, ladies are up, and that's who we got to watch for. These 2 big girls, they're going to lead. They're in charge of what's going to be happening after dark. Let me just get my spotlight out. And fortunately I managed to collect so much paraphernalia. So as we're about to embark on following these lions on a hunt, country gal Ash says, is it true that most lion hunts end in failure?
Fresh, clean.
Ash, that's very correct, and she'd also like to know a bit of the statistics. Well, as we pull away, there we go, he's up as well. Is the other one still sleeping underneath us? No, he's moved. Oh, okay. Lights off. I'm just going to shine above. They've changed their behavior completely. They've gone into full stalk mode. So all lights off. Fortunately, you're just going to have to sit here. And we're going to have to listen for a while. What I am going to do with my lights off is move into a position because with following lions hunting at night, it can be quite difficult. The bush is very, very thick in front of me. So I'm going to get myself into a position where I think they might chase an animal towards and listen. And then from what I hear, I'll be able to hopefully get us into the right place at the right time. So when we follow animals hunting at night, you don't often see that full takedown like we did with the Nkahumas on that buffalo during the day. But we are generally there within a couple of seconds or minutes, so while the animal is still alive. a second, Brian, I'm just going to ask you to turn this light off so I can... sorry about that, guys. I just need my eyes, and I am looking into half light. And with that bright light on my face, I can't actually see the lions. Okay. The lions are right opposite us. I don't know if we're going to be able to. Brian is going to push this camera to its absolute maximum, but I think it might be a little bit of dark to spot them. With the naked eye, I can still see them just slowly moving through the bush there. So sorry that you guys can't actually see them. There's a termite mound there, I think. No, a fallen down tree. We can still see them, but they are going to go into this bush. So we're going to have to stand by here, and once I've lost sight of them, I will get Brian to turn that light back on. But while I can sort of see what area they're moving into, I'm going to need to leave that light off. So my eyes keep adjusted to the darkness, and I can make the right choices about where to go after they make a charge or not, or they don't. So now the most important thing becomes our ears. So every now and then I will flash the spotlight up in the tops of the trees just to see if I can spot on the ground, so not putting the light directly on the lions. But my gut says we need to be a little bit further to the south of us. The lions are off to the north, but I've got a feeling if they're going to chase something, it's going to come this way. So I've spotted her. There, just there. I'm just going to keep the light on for a second. You see the belly there? Okay. So in full stalk mode. And as I think I was correct in my guessing where we should be, and I'm going to move around a little bit more. I've just got my dims on. I might put my brights on a little bit just to see where I'm going, but I'm facing up away from the line, so don't worry. And the animals don't react to the vehicles here. They are used to the vehicles, habituated to the vehicles. That's why we are able to follow them hunting. And it is an incredible thing. And it's taken years. People have been habituating wildlife in the Sabi Sand since the 60s. Isn't that incredible that people have been coming on safari here since the 1960s? So I think this is a nice open area where we're going to be able to sit and listen and not affect what's happening on, and still maybe in this half light catch the occasional glimpse of those cats as they move past us. Okay, one must also remember, just hang on a sec. One must also remember that we very easily might lose the lions in this darkness and in this thick bush at night. And that's just part and parcel of following wildlife at night. And hopefully, I know we are working on getting some incredible sort of night vision cameras and things like that that should make it a lot easier for us to follow at night. So as we said, those lions waited for darkness before they went in. Their odds of success are much higher, and this is a moonless night, which increases the odds again. Sorry, country girl Ash, Ash, I didn't get to those actual statistics because I got so excited about following these lions hunting. Ash, so generally between about 12 and 15% of lion kills are successful. So 1.2 to 1.5 times out of 10, the lions actually successfully catch what they're chasing. And Brian's doing a great job giving you some wonderful visuals of the last African sunset light. Well, I agree with you, Charlie. Charlie said it's so exciting just to listen and use our imaginations. It's almost like safari radio. I'm just going to be on the Game Drive channel for a second. I just need to let Abel know what's going on. He's just behind here. Oh, we can hear the buffalo so close to us. And that's where the lions are going. I think we're in the right spot, guys. Fingers crossed. Abel. Negative, Andrew. I'm looking for Abel. Yeah, Abel, there's some nyari. They're probably about 25 meters from the Ngala now, but moving towards the Ngala slowly. Copy, sorry, I couldn't see it was dark. FM. Just 200. FM, make your way. They're in the same position as this morning, so just come south on Impala Road from the power lines. You should get one vehicle visual from the road. I'm probably 50, 60 meters off the road to the south, and there's a large herd of nyari in the area as well. Sorry about that, guys. Back with you. Just letting the other guys know what's going on. It's very important to keep in communication. We help them now, they help us other times, and we're all a big team trying to get everyone the best safari possible. There you go, some stars popping up. Amazing. I'm trying to listen really carefully for the sort of footfalls of a lion. Sometimes when they're very close in the darkness you can hear it, but I can't hear anything. There we go. The lions are after him. I can just see the movement through the bush. The lions crash. I think they missed. We're just going to listen. Okay. I think they missed. I don't think they... Yeah, there's a young male here, but I saw that lioness just shoot right through here. The buffalo came storming through here like this and out through there. So I think it wasn't successful, otherwise he'd be charging in. But I wonder which lioness made that initial charge. There we go. It was the tailless and the sub-adult female. And literally, look what the buffalo left as they disappeared, and I don't blame them. Very splattered buffalo dung. So, Ash, there we go. Often the lion hunts end unsuccessfully, and now there's a bit of greeting going on. Can you hear those little contact calls behind the termite mound? Hang on, we'll get there. And all the sub-adults complaining, where's the meat? They're getting growled at. There's the tailless lioness who had led the initial charge. And let's see where the others are off to. Sorry, Brian. So, as we noticed, this one lioness is lacking a tail. There we go. We got asked earlier today about clawing trees to clean and sharpen the claws, and there we go. There's a great example. But Walking D says, how did that lioness lose her tail? As far as I know, it happened to the south of us, and it happened due to hyenas that at a kill somehow managed to bite her bottom, and she lost her tail. And strange enough, her mother lost her tail in the exact same way. And Walking D also has asked us to give us a shout out to the game drive vehicle who's behind us, and I'm not sure whether Walking D is on that vehicle or possibly knows someone on the vehicle. So we are sending a shout out to the guys from Milkberry Camp and Buffels Hook. I just need to be on the game drive radio for a second. Sorry guys, Andrew's calling me. Andrew, they missed that Nyari. They're now heading to where the rest of the herd ran. The main part of the herd went east towards the power lines. Just a mom says there was a breeding herd of buffalo at Arathusa earlier today, and she's wondering, could this be the same herd? It's quite possible. They have come from the west. Mom, what happened to the buffalo? So quite interestingly, even though that big breeding herd is headed east, they're continuing to head south, and that is where they originally come from. I'm wondering if they're going to try and make an attempt to head back to their traditional home range. Oh, the chochos are out tonight. And for those of you not sure what a chocho is, it's a South African colloquialism for insects, and when you hold a bright light like we're doing at the moment, you tend to get covered in them. So, a very observant James from Kansas City has noticed that there's quite a lot of bats around tonight, and he's wondering, is that because the buffalo have kicked up all the dust? I think that could, kicked up all the insects, that could play a part, James, but more than likely I think it's because we had a little bits of rain over the weekend, and the insect population has exploded exponentially over the last couple of days, and now with a nice hot day or two reasonably warm days, it's caused a lot of those insects to hatch.
Yeah.
Hi Andrew.
Hello, Brent, how are you?
Good, and yourself?
Good, thanks, man. Thank you. This is the one without...
Very good. I thought for sure they'd catch one.
Is it?
No, those buffalo came very close to them.
Yeah. And they're machines.
Yeah. So all the guides around here, we have quite a lot of respect for the Tsalala pride and their buffalo hunting skills. 4 buffalo in 4 days that we know about, and a few more in the property to the west of us as well.
One that doesn't have a tail. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. How come?
Cut it off.
Please.
Miss.
Mm.
Took it off. Only when we were young.
These guys are about to head into some really thick country. I'm going to try to keep up with them. And I think the best option is going to be to try to go a little bit further to our west where it's a bit more open down there, and then try and keep up with them as they go through these terrible monkey orange thickets. So while we do that, just a quick update, as a few of you guys are wondering what happened to the rest of their pride that we saw at Sydney's Dam. Well, we're not convinced they're actually from the same pride. I think it's from maybe a split pride from quite a while ago, or slight relation, or maybe they just sort of tolerated each other because of the upheaval caused by all the male lions at the moment. But those other 3 lions, oh, there we go, a nice bit of greeting. Whoopsie. Oh, they're so affectionate when they want to be. And all that social greeting is very, very important to establish the pride dynamics and keep those bonds between the pride very strong. And particularly because when it comes to dinner, lions forget all their manners, and it literally is each lion for itself. Still got the tailless female there in front of us. We've chatted quite a bit about coalitions and how they're formed and stuff today, and Laura from Pennsylvania, welcome Laura, is wondering how are they formed? Do these males test each other out before they head off to form a coalition? Well, Laura, what happens is generally you'll have a couple like these 3 that are related that will move off, and they might meet up with 2 or 3 other buffalo lions that are not, I've got lion and buffalo on the brain, that are not related, and they will test each other out. Often this happens over a carcass, and then from there they'll decide whether they like the other lions and whatnot, and sometimes it can take a while for that to happen. So friendly tonight. Or are they pestering Mom for more food? Guys, I'm going to try stay with them, but we are getting into some really tough country here. Oh, but we will have a look at him cleaning his nails. That's a nice little open patch to drive through here. There we go. You can see him utilizing, for a brief second, that tree. Oh dear. I'm just trying to think. I'm not going to be able to follow through there. I need to try to figure out a way out of here. During the day, sometimes we are able to follow. Obviously, we can see quite a lot further, and it's much easier for us to duck and dive between fallen down trees and stumps. At night, we obviously have to move a lot slower and be a lot more careful. So I will try stay with them for the last couple of minutes, but there is a possibility we might lose them, as I said. That happens quite often when they are hunting buffalo. I'm hoping I can move parallel to their general direction on this slightly more open ground. But they are cutting further south, and we're not going to be able to get through there at night. Andrew, I'm trying. They cut a bit further south and it's very thick there, so I've come back out to try to see if there's another way to get in there. Copy, thanks. Ow. Thanks very much, Donna. Donna says I just happen to have a knack for being in the right spot at the right time. Donna, I'm very fortunate. I've had some incredible teachers over the years and good instincts. That's all I can attribute to, and a great cameraman, of course. Thumbs out. So what I'm hoping is the lions are moving through this really thick stuff here, and I'm just going to try keep on the slightly more open area here, and Andrew's going to shoot round ahead to see if they pop out on Impala plains. Come on, kitty cats, kitty cats. The Tsalala pride is quite an interesting pride, and Raisa from Finland has just said, didn't the Tsalala pride have two tailless lionesses in their pride? Raisa, I can tell you they've had two tailless lionesses, this one and her mother, but I'm not sure whether they were ever tailless at the same time or became tailless at different times. So there were definitely two tailless females. The original tailless female, which is the mother of the current tailless female, is a female when I was working at Londonese we used to call the tailless female, and she is one of the main founding members of the Tsalala pride. So the Tsalala pride, when I used to see them regularly, was made up of the tailless female and two of her adult cubs. Oh. Well, that definitely decides what we're going to be doing here. We're not going through there. There's a big breeding herd of elephants in there, and they don't like light much, so I'm definitely not going to annoy them. Okay, so sorry, I think I misheard while I was crashing through the bush there. Raisa's actual question was that she heard that the original tailless lioness was killed and eaten by her own pride. I have not heard that, to be honest. And I'm not sure about that at all, right? So if that is the case, that is really, really unusual. Oh, getting a good forearm workout, following lines off road at night. Lots of turning. I'm just going to try and get out into the open here a little bit. Strangely enough, this is the second time I've followed lions hunting buffalo in this exact block between these roads. And the first time was those 3 Nkahuma lionesses. Well, it's going to take me a while to navigate my way out of here. But we're nearly at the end of the safari. And what a fantastic safari it's been. So, thank you very much, Dennis from Massachusetts. He says there's nothing better than hearing a lion hunt narrated by Brent. I really do appreciate that, and thanks for watching, guys. We're very lucky. We have a team that is incredibly passionate about what we do, and we really love bringing Africa to you guys. So just a quick recap before we head off and try to find some supper like the lions. What a fantastic time with the Tsalala Pride. Those buffalo came so close, but it's amazing how different prides have different strategies. I think the Tsalala Pride completely waited till it was after dark before they attempted. The Nkahumas, even if they had had a full belly, I think they probably would have gone for it. And that could be a factor, that only having 2 adult lionesses in the pride as opposed to 4 or 5. So very interesting, and it all goes down to prey selection. They were looking for a sub-adult, in my opinion, or a really weak individual. They didn't want to take on a big adult. So from James and Andrew, who are on walk, from Brian and myself here on the Wendy, and just a quick update before we go. Unfortunately, Jigger's electrics are still giving us problems, and she's going to have to go into town to get replaced or fixed. But thanks very much for joining us, and don't forget to join us on the Sunrise Safari. James and I'll see you bright and early.